Hello, and welcome to Velosio Viewpoint Live, where we chat all things cloud, digital transformation, CRM, ERP, data, IT security, and so much more to help take your organization from what is to what is possible. So before we jump into our chat today, I just want to make sure whether you are on YouTube or you are on LinkedIn Live, that you make sure you are either followed or subscribed to Velosio so you don't miss a thing. Depending on what platform you're on, the buttons are somewhere on one of these sides at the bottom. So you can go ahead and hit that for yourself so that you don't miss out on anything. And as we jump in, I'll introduce myself. My name is Jessica Rodriguez. I am the digital marketing manager here at Velosio, coming from a very, very cold, everything hurts my face, Connecticut right now in the winter. And today I have Trey Johnson here to talk about data silos. So Trey, introduce yourself. Let us know where you're coming from today.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jessica. Glad to be here. Good to be a voice representing all the good things we do with data and analytics and AI here at Velosio. I'm actually in the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm here in St. Augustine, Florida. So we're comfortably warm. We're far from frozen and really ready to share a lot. My role at Velosio is I'm a solution specialist focused on data analytics and AI.
Awesome. And I'm excited about this conversation just because I know even for myself, starting over this past year, I'm over on the marketing side and I see everything that goes in with the data team. And it's just like, you know what, there's just so many different avenues that we could take this conversation. But what I want to do is kind of get into just the root cause. So let's kind of start right there with what would you say is a common root cause for data silos showing up in an organization?
Yeah, I think it's a great place to start. And in terms of the challenges or the root causes, for data silos, a lot of times it's because organizations have kind of grown and expanded their infrastructure of systems. So Velosio, we're particularly familiar with customers who have Microsoft business applications like Dynamics 365 and the ERPs and the CRMs. But when they get started with one of those products or one of those kind of areas for the business, a lot of times they rely heavily on reporting that's just naturally available within that application. And so as a result, people kind of look through the lens of just that application at the data. As time goes on, and particularly as businesses grow and acquisitions happen, and all of a sudden you went from having one ERP or one CRM platform to possibly having more than one because another company brought their own with them. Well, then that not only is it silos, but it's also kind of fragmented data as well. So the inability to kind of understand who customers are and those sort of things just becomes that much more challenging. And it's not, not a terrible thing. I mean, people are facing it and we're helping them overcome it all the time. It's naturally part of what we describe as the customer's data journey, meaning everybody's kind of doing different things with data, some of which involves, hey, you've got silos of data you're trying to resolve. But ultimately, it's about trying to figure out how do you do more with data and how do you use technology to support you in that journey.
And something that you mentioned about the fact that there are, whether it's different organizations all coming together because there is an acquisition or there's different departments, there's different roles, there's people, right? There's so many things involved, especially as a company is growing and then scaling. Who becomes the person who fixes this, right? Like there's just so much involved. Who is generally the owner of making sure this data all comes together in one place and can actually be utilized fully?
Yeah, so I think it's one of those things where in order to kind of embark on the correction or the fixing, there has to be kind of an organizational endorsement for solving the problem, right? And that obviously comes at the highest levels. And frankly, if you're a CFO or a CEO and you're trying to look across your business, you see the silos really quickly because you've got reports kind of from different systems and different areas, and maybe you've got some Excel magician that kind of brings it all together, and that's the view that you get across the business. But more practically, the solution happens, with IT stakeholders, people that are really tasked with supporting kind of departmentally the marketing function, the sales function, the finance function of the business, how do you start to bring that data together, across the multitude of silos? Um, what's really great is that, Microsoft particularly has started to take all of the great things that they do on Azure in terms of the core technologies around data in the cloud. And they brought it together in an offering from, it's called Microsoft Fabric. And so Microsoft Fabric has kind of a full range of tools that, from an IT perspective, you can be, kind of a significant or sophisticated coder, all the way to kind of a low coder that doesn't, it's just wanting to kind of practically get some things done. And the tools are there to support, kind of breaking apart those silos or bringing those silos together is probably a better way to put it, and make sure that, people can do some analyses. And so it sits with the IT function, but it's not alone, because, there are stakeholders that are out in the business that need to kind of really define at some level what's important from the different systems. So,
and I really appreciate you mentioning the buy-in of the fact that you can't be the only person who wants this. It has to be all the way across, because it's a project in itself, right? To take this on and really make it a priority for the organization.
Absolutely.
So what do you hear the most often from these business owners about the data silos in the organization? So what is coming up that makes them on board with making a change?
Yeah, I think what really gets people on board is when they have that just inability to kind of look across their business, as a first example. And so, what does that mean when I can't look across the business? It means that I can't see the total picture of, say, the customer experience. So we'll continue to pick on, kind of CRM and ERP as to data platforms or silos where data lives. Well, a seller, if they're solely looking at CRM, they're like, boy, I've got a fantastic customer. They buy from me all the time. Every time I call them up, they're looking to place an order, and, so on and so forth. And through that CRM lens, that's all that you see. But through the ERP side, which is much more financially kind of oriented, well, yeah, you do see that they're placing a lot of orders, naturally, but you also see that it takes them a lot longer than normal to pay their bills, or they potentially return, kind of a disproportionate percentage of, some of the orders that they place, or even going kind of further from a customer support and servicing standpoint, maybe they really kind of, I call it, overuse your support organization in terms of, questions and things that they want to do. So in that kind of that broader view, that owners are always saying that they can't really see, that's what they need. They need that ability to say, okay, this customer with just the CRM metrics is great. With the overall metrics, maybe they're a little bit more of an average type of a customer than a great one. So that's probably one of the better examples. There's a lot of other examples, where people are they're kind of doing just unnatural things, with Excel particularly. We see that a lot, and more so as things happen around acquisitions. So we've talked about acquisitions just briefly, but if I am running on an ERP like Dynamics 365, and I've got this, great set of reporting and things that I'm doing to support my financial reporting, and then all of a sudden I've taken on a new kind of subdivision of the business. They've got their own ERP. We haven't quite gotten them onto Dynamics 365. It becomes more challenging to kind of have that consolidated or integrated kind of financial perspective and operational perspectives as well.
And even with this, so being aware that there's a problem, starting to see when you're talking to other areas of, hold on, we're seeing the same person, but under a completely different lens, right? And then that's impacting how everyone is making decisions, which then probably has the organization just bumping into each other all the time.
Yeah.
How do they even start to fix this? I almost imagine it as like this fully stacked closet. You open the door, you're like, nope, like it's too much. Where do you start with tackling it?
Well, as a person that went through kind of the whole, crossover into the new year, hey, let's get the garage reorganized, that sort of thing. Boy, you find a lot of stuff kind of distributed in a lot of places. And so you are trying to bring things together and kind of more of a common storage, a common way of, combining the information. For our customers, that means that they're evolving from the ERP information model or the CRM information model. And what is the information model for that business? Meaning, you can have a customer table or a customer defined as the composite of data from CRM and from ERP and maybe from other applications or other sources as well. All of this feed into that common model, typically on Microsoft Fabric, to allow for the organization to really start to look across the business. The other nice thing about working towards that common model that's more reflective of the business than it is reflective of the individual applications is they become more insulated from application change. So if they go to a new version, those sorts of things, that's some of the stuff that happens. So.
And as organizations start to work on this, right, with any goal or anything that you are heading towards, you kind of need to know, what does that destination look like? What does success look like? What are we actually going towards? What would you say are some of those key characteristics that start to signify, hey, like this is a silo-free data architecture. Like we did it. We got here.
Yeah. And I think we will very much still characterize it as kind of the data journey, right? That it is a journey. It's not a kind of a lift, and all of a sudden you've shifted over into our new data architecture and everything is totally rosy. That's a lot to put on the business, in terms of just kind of the natural effort, the inclusion of people that are subject matter experts around the individual systems. The key characteristics, though, once you get to that kind of finalized, data architecture, is that it is providing answers without having to kind of look back to the underlying applications. There is a raised element of familiarity across the business. So a lot of people call it data literacy in terms of understanding, kind of the data and where it comes from and what it is. At the end of the day, if you look underneath the covers of an ERP or you look under the covers of a CRM application, some of the stuff is human intelligible in terms of data and kind of where it's stored. But there's a lot that's not, because those applications were built to store the information, to store the transactions that were happening as a result of the business processes. So the new data architecture that lives within Fabric, that's really a reflection of the business and the model, it should be something that's very human intelligible. You're right. That you can look at it and you can say, okay, I see customer and I see item and I see employee and I see organization and I see date and other things. There's really kind of common topics that we use to look at the transactions of the business. And then the transactions of the business, what come as a result of the business processes, should be available within that architecture as well. So whether it's, the upfront marketing and sales activity, through to the transactional elements of kind of serving the customer, fulfilling orders, those sort of things, all the way through to, potentially the ongoing evaluation of kind of the customer's own perspective on the company, sentiment or otherwise. It should all be there. It should all be there within that data architecture. And it can get there incrementally. It's definitely not a boil the ocean sort of thing or a swallow the elephant sort of thing. It's you just figure out how to kind of naturally work towards that architecture, and then build out an area that's off of, say, CRM first or the ERP first. And then you start adding kind of the other facets or attributes from the applications that you haven't touched yet.
Yep. And that's one of the things, from my understanding, is when clients are coming in to look at this, it is, here's where you're at. Here's what those incremental steps look like, right? Like here are the phases of this, because everyone's different and where they're starting at and also what they even need.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think that it's probably a thing that we can be proud of, particularly at Velosio, is we serve such a diverse set of customers, and kind of all sizes, all the way, from mid-market companies through to the enterprise, side of things. There's different capabilities underneath the customer's roof, and so it's really, our job to say, how much can we kind of get the architecture moving in the right direction, and then allow the customer to take progressively more ownership of that and populating it the rest of the way. And in those scenarios, we may revert to more of kind of a supporting type of a role, where they engage us periodically to support it. The one thing I'll just, kind of, maybe the reason I'm making that point is it's not something that is unobtainable for organizations that are, say, on the smaller end of the spectrum. We've proven exactly otherwise. So
awesome. And I hear that there is a webinar going on for people that are interested in learning more about how to really tap into what their data is capable of. So can you tell us a little bit about what you have going on?
Yeah. So we've got a really good webinar coming up to really talk about key facets of data management, key facets of kind of what you need to be thinking about in terms of kind of data readiness. The end goal is, as always, is to bring kind of our experiences at Velosio into more of an educational context to help people understand what are the challenges, what is the ability to kind of overcome some of those challenges. What's exciting for me is, the messages, some of the messages have been pretty similar kind of over the years, but now with things like AI particularly, there's really kind of a new perspective on how much more efficiently you can, kind of solve some of the challenges. And so that's part of what kind of is get woven into the upcoming webinar. And I'm just super excited to, kind of go deeper on it. So.
Awesome. And I put in the comment section on both sides the link to go ahead and sign up. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be catching the replay of this, so just know you can still go there, because if you are unable to attend live, which is tomorrow as of this recording, if you're unable to attend live, the replay will still be there, so you can go ahead and get everything. However, if you can attend live, there is a Q&A so that you can get, your questions answered live. I'm a big fan of Q&As, like just to be able to.
Oh, I love it too. Anybody that's watching this live or watches it before the webinar happens, bring your questions, please. It really is a fun part of the webinar, and always like the ability to kind of think on the feet, but more so practically tie what's a very kind of personal, question that people are trying to resolve back to the collective experiences that we have at Velosio.
Yes, absolutely. And with that, Trey, thank you so much for hanging out, for sharing, answering all the questions. It's been amazing. Everyone, I put in the comments as well Trey's link or LinkedIn profile. So if you have any more questions, you want to reach out to him directly. Of course, make sure you are following us here at Velosio as well, so you can get our upcoming Viewpoint lives and hear all of the different things that we are chatting about. Trey, any last words?
Well, I'm just always excited to talk about data. So, please don't miss the opportunity to either attend the webinar or, connect via LinkedIn. I particularly in my role, I'm always proud to, just have a conversation with those that are interested in understanding more, particularly as it relates to Microsoft platform and technology. So.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day. And again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.